All right, team, let's get right to it. This briefing is all about one thing: operationalizing our defense stack. We're getting past the theory and into how we actually use our tools against the threats we face every single day. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get a clear picture of the modern threat battlefield. Then we'll walk through our playbook, how we operate. We'll break down a typical modern breach, and then, this is the good part, we'll see exactly how our integrated stack takes it apart, piece by piece. Finally, we'll talk about closing that loop, moving from just detecting stuff to actually preventing it. Okay, Section 1, the modern threat battlefield. We have to start here because, let's be honest, the rules have completely changed. Look, if there's one word that defines everything we do now, it's time. The entire game is measured in minutes, sometimes even seconds. Why? Because the time it takes an adversary to go from that first machine to moving laterally, what we call breakout speed, it's collapsed. 2 minutes. Yeah, you heard that right. That's the fastest we've seen an attacker pop one box and jump to another. The average isn't much better, just over an hour. Our old way of doing things, relying on slow seams and manual tickets, it just can't keep up. It's all about speed now. So what does this mean for us? It means that whole castle and moat idea of security, it's dead. The network edge isn't our perimeter anymore. Every single user identity is. Adversaries aren't hacking their way in, they're just logging in. And that's what's so dangerous. They walk right past the front door with stolen keys. If our tools don't talk to each other, if our identity tool can't tell the endpoint tool what's happening, we're essentially fighting blind. And those blind spots are absolutely lethal. Which brings us to Section 2, our playbook. Our entire job is to take this incredibly fast, chaotic environment and bring some sanity to it, to translate all that noise into clarity. At the end of the day, this is what we are. The SOC is the central nervous system of the whole operation. We are the ones on the front lines, handling everything from that first weird alert all the way through to kicking the bad guys out. And we're not just making this up as we go along. We use frameworks to give us structure. MITRE ATT&CK is huge. It gives us a shared dictionary to describe exactly what the adversary is doing. The CIS controls? That's our prioritized to-do list for defense. And Zero Trust? Well, that's our whole mindset. Assume you're already compromised and verify absolutely everything. Now, this is how we make it all actionable. We mash those frameworks together into what we call a cyber catalog. And this is more than just a spreadsheet, okay? It's a living model that directly maps a threat technique from MITRE to a specific defense control, and then to a metric that proves that control is actually working. This thing is the bridge from threat intel to real, measurable defense. Okay, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. In Section 3, we're going to dissect a modern breach, step by step. This is a scenario based on the exact kind of stuff we're seeing out there right now. So the attack chain is pretty standard, right? It kicks off with initial access. Maybe a clever vision call gets them some credentials. Then comes execution. They're on a box, but they're not using crazy malware. They're using PowerShell, stuff that's already there. Living off the land, right? To stay hidden. From there, it's lateral movement, and then finally, the end game. Action on objectives, stealing our data, deploying ransomware, the whole ugly mess. All right, now for the main event, Section 4, the integrated defense in action. We're going to run that exact same attack back, but now we'll see how our combined semantic and CrowdStrike stack is designed to put up a roadblock at every single stage. Okay, Stage 1, initial access. The attacker's got valid credentials. So our first line of defense isn't on the endpoint at all, it's at the identity layer. And that's exactly where CrowdStrike Falcon IDP steps in. So what Falcon IDP does is pretty cool. It watches Active Directory and Entra ID in real time. It's not just looking at logs after the fact. It's actually inspecting live authentication traffic. It spots recon tools like Bloodhound instantly. So when that stolen credential gets used from some weird location, Falcon sees it, jacks up that identity's risk score, and can automatically force an MFA challenge. Boom. Attackers stopped before they ever get a foothold. But hey, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say the attacker somehow gets past that first gate. Now they're on a machine trying to run PowerShell commands. This is that tricky living off the land phase. Now the defense pivots to the device itself, and semantic endpoint security takes center stage. And this is really where semantic endpoint security earns its keep. Its adaptive protection is smart enough to know that, yeah, PowerShell is a legit tool, but it should not be doing that. And it blocks the behavior, not just the file. Our sonar engine is watching behavior in real time. If they try to drop some custom malware, the emulator detonates it in a tiny sandbox before it even runs. And if they try a 0-day on some app we haven't patched yet, Memory Exploit Mitigation is there to shut that down too. Okay, but even if a machine does get compromised, the fight's not over. We absolutely cannot let them move laterally. This is probably the most critical phase, and this is where our defense shifts to semantics zero trust network access and our EDR. ZTNA is zero trust made real. It basically cloaks all of our internal servers and apps. So an attacker on a compromised laptop can't scan the network because, from their perspective, there is no network to scan. At the same time, our EDR is recording everything happening on that endpoint. So as an analyst, you see the weirdness, you can hunt for it everywhere else, and then with one click, you isolate that machine from the network. Contained. And here is the absolute game changer for us in the SOC. The EDR doesn't just give you a mountain of raw data. It automatically maps what it sees, like that PowerShell command, directly to the specific MITRE ATTK technique. That enrichment is huge. It takes all the guesswork out of triage. You know exactly what the attacker is trying to do, and you can respond way, way faster. We're at the final stage now, the smash and grab. The attacker has what they want, and they're trying to sneak it out the door. This is where our data loss prevention is the last and best line of defense. Think of our semantic DLP as the bouncer at the exit. It's looking at data everywhere, on the machine, in the cloud, and most importantly, as it's moving. Because it's tied into our ZTNA and our web gateways, it sees that huge suspicious upload of our intellectual property, checks it against our policies, and just blocks it. Transfer denied. Game over. So, we stopped the attack. Great, but we're not done. This last part is the most important. Moving from just detecting attacks to truly preventing them. It's about taking what we learned and making sure it can't happen again. Look, this means we have to change how we think. For years, security was about chasing IOCs, file hashes, IP addresses. That's reactive. It's evidence an attack already happened. A modern SOC hunts for IOAs, indicators of attack. We're hunting for the behavior, the weird login, the strange PowerShell command, and we're stopping it before it succeeds. And that's what I want to leave you with. Ask yourselves this. Are we just a fire department running from blaze to blaze? Or are we taking the intel from every single spark, every ember, and using it to update our rules, harden our systems, and fireproof this entire enterprise for whatever comes next? That right there is the difference between a good SOC and a great one.